9. Christopher BALDNER. As Christmas approached in late 2020, Tristan Goods and his wife packed up their 2 kids and headed north from their Brooklyn home to visit some relatives in upstate New York. They were driving along Interstate 87, about 95 miles or 153 kilometers outside the city, when State Trooper Christopher BALDNER pulled them over for speeding in Ulster County. It's unclear what happened during the stop, but at some point, BALDNER sprayed pepper spray into the family's SUV. Goods allegedly sped off, and a chase ensued. BALDNER rear-ended the vehicle twice. The SUV struck a guardrail, rolled over multiple times, and came to rest upside down. One of the children was ejected from the vehicle and lost her life, while the other child sustained serious injuries. Nearly a year after the accident, BALDNER was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter, and multiple counts of reckless endangerment. 5 of the 8 charges are in connection with the Goods tragedy, and 3 stemmed from another alleged ramming incident that occurred in 2019. In a statement, Attorney General Letitia James accused BALDNER of using his car as a deadly weapon, while the union representing him said that it planned to fight the charges. He remains suspended without pay, pending the outcome of the allegations. To describe the case as complicated would be an understatement. According to the most recent update, BALDNER's attorneys have filed motions challenging several details in the indictment, and he has yet to go to trial. 8. Brian Glenn. One night in early 2021, 71-year-old Alaska resident Bob Bodell was riding in an SUV with his friends Eric and Katie Haddock when the vehicle ran out of gas in the town of Soldotna. Eric parked at the base of a long residential driveway, and he and Katie left on foot to buy gas while Bodell, who struggles with mobility issues, waited in the SUV. After noticing the vehicle at the foot of their driveway, the homeowners became suspicious and called police. State Trooper Brian Glenn, who had graduated from the police academy just 6 months earlier, responded to the scene. It's unclear exactly what happened during his conversation with Bodell, since his regular patrol car was out of service and he was using a car with no dash cam. But Bodell later claimed that he explained why the SUV was sitting there and why he was in it, and that Glenn didn't seem to believe him and repeatedly accused him of being the driver of the vehicle. Glenn submitted a partial audio recording of the exchange into evidence. However, he failed to hit the record button before approaching Bodell, despite the police manual's recommendation to begin recording before interacting with the public. In fact, by the time Glenn began recording, the conversation had already become heated, leaving out what happened in the moments leading up to it. At some point, the disagreement became physical, and Bodell was charged with disorderly conduct and assaulting an officer. He maintains his innocence and has accused Glenn of using excessive force, claiming that the trooper tased him, struck him, and sprayed him with mace for asserting his right to remain silent. Speaking with local station KTUU, Bodell said that the ordeal has left him with memory problems and uncontrollable shakes. He now relies even more on his caretakers than he did before the encounter, and can no longer ride his four-wheeler and do other things he once enjoyed. However, there are always 2 sides to every story, and the Alaska State Police, ASP, and the State Department of Public Safety are standing by Trooper Glenn, who they say was just doing his job. They accused Bodell of being the aggressor, but the case against him was dropped. Glenn resigned from his position in early 2022. But the agency maintains that his decision to quit had nothing to do with the Bodell case. 7. KASHA Domingue. In July of 2018, Louisiana State Trooper KASHA Domingue pulled a car over behind a grocery store in Baton Rouge for making an illegal U-turn. During the traffic stop, the vehicle's unarmed passenger, 19-year-old Clifton Dilley, tried to flee the scene on foot. Domingue shot him, leaving him partially paralyzed. and was immediately put on desk duty following the incident. It was her second use of force that day, after using her stun gun on another civilian during a traffic stop for not having a license plate. After shooting Dilly, Domingue incorrectly told dispatch that she had used her stun gun on him. Dilly would later allege in a lawsuit that this slowed the emergency response. Domingue was indicted a few days later on charges of second-degree battery and illegal use of a weapon, and was accused of giving investigators conflicting accounts of what happened. Following the indictment, she was put on administrative leave. In the meantime, the Louisiana State Police conducted an internal investigation, but revealed very little about its findings or any disciplinary action that was taken. Domingue struck a deal with prosecutors and pleaded guilty to a reduced misdemeanor charge of obstruction of justice. She was sentenced to 6 months of probation and was required to sign an agreement promising to never work in law enforcement again. 6. Jennifer Daignault. The future seemed promising for Jennifer Daignault when she graduated from New York State Police Academy in 2016 and began her career upstate in Oneida County. However, she veered down a wayward path just 2 years later, when she posed as a man on the Plenty of Fish dating app and began a long-distance relationship with a 33-year-old woman living in Long Island. During the 3 months that the pair corresponded, the victim sent intimate photos of herself to Daignault while under the false impression that she was talking to someone else. The already bizarre catfishing scheme took an even stranger turn when Daignault threatened to post the images online if the victim didn't travel to New York City to buy a fake ID. An investigation by police in the city of Rome found that the fake profile Daignault used in this particular case was just one of several fake IDs she had created online between 2016 and 2018. By the time authorities charged her in connection with the Long Island catfishing case, she was already facing charges in Rome for allegedly harassing another woman online for 15 years. The victim told police that she began chatting with who she thought was a man named Michael in 2003. Over the years, the online relationship became increasingly abusive, eventually culminating into a living nightmare. The case against Daignault in Rome was ultimately dismissed, but she pleaded guilty to misdemeanor coercion in the Long Island case and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. She also no longer works in law enforcement, much to the relief of those whose lives were affected by her alleged crimes. 5. Charles Hewitt. In a disturbing arrest that was captured on video in 2019, a Virginia state trooper threatened to hurt an unarmed black man and forcefully yanked him out of his vehicle during a traffic stop in Fairfax County. The unprovoked act of aggression occurred when troopers pulled over 29-year-old Derek Thompson for having an expired inspection sticker. Thompson recorded the entire interaction with his cell phone. In the video, he can be seen calmly telling Trooper Charles Hewitt that he was not a threat and that his command for him to exit his vehicle was unlawful. Even though Thompson was refusing to do what he was told, he kept his hands in the air and remained peaceful throughout the conversation. He insisted that he had no violent or bad intentions and that he was simply asserting his right to remain seated in his car. Hewitt nevertheless became irate and began yelling in Thompson's face, at one point threatening to, quote, whoop his ass. The trooper eventually told Thompson that he was under arrest, looked directly at the man's camera, and said, "Watch the show, folks," before taking him to the ground. Shortly after the video surfaced, Virginia State Police, VSP, Superintendent Colonel Gary Settle condemned Hewitt's actions. Thompson pleaded guilty to misdemeanor obstruction of justice in the case, but sued the state for violating his rights and received a $20,000 settlement in 2021. Around the same time, Hewitt resigned from his position. Although the settlement didn't require VSP to admit any wrongdoing, Thompson's attorney said that his client was satisfied with the outcome. and that he believes Virginia is safer without Hewitt on the streets. 4. Jacob Toll. After learning that his daughter and her child may have been subjected to violence at the hands of the woman's boyfriend in 2022, a concerned father called the police and asked them to do a welfare check at the couple's home in Madison, Indiana. The woman's father reported that the victims had been thrown from the home by 33-year-old Jacob Toll, an Indiana state trooper who was off duty at the time. Apparently, Toll had been drinking that night, which only makes matters worse. The victim reportedly told responding troopers that she and Toll got into an argument after she poured his alcohol down the drain. She accused him of grabbing her by the back of the neck and choking her until she could no longer breathe. She also said that he went after her a second time, when she tried throwing some bottles of liquor in the garbage. The woman's son said that he was scared that Toll was going to kill his mother during the disagreement. Toll faces multiple felony charges, including domestic battery in the presence of a minor, strangulation, and communication intimidation. He's currently suspended without pay while he deals with the case in court. 3. Edwin Ramirez. Delaware State Trooper Corporal Edmund Ramirez was a highly praised member of his department until 2021, when one of his supervisors discovered some discrepancies in an accident report. After serving on the force for 6 years with an unblemished record, he was suspended with pay while his superiors investigated the matter. They examined patrol footage of vehicles that Ramirez had issued e-warnings and e-tickets to through the state's electronic system and discovered that in many instances, no traffic stop occurred. In other words, Ramirez was issuing tickets and warnings to drivers who weren't doing anything wrong, and in some cases weren't even pulled over. Over the course of just 1 month, the State Justice Department counted more than 30 fraudulent warnings. 2 of his victims were fellow members of law enforcement. In one instance, Ramirez issued a warning to a state police employee who wasn't even driving at the time. In another, he issued a warning to a Sussex County police officer for allegedly driving off the road. He cited a Department of Corrections worker for talking on his cell phone while driving, but never pulled the man over. And another victim was at home attending a virtual parent-teacher conference when they were ticketed for having illegal tint on their car windows. Some victims were stopped, but were unaware that they had received a ticket or a warning. It comes as no surprise that Ramirez had been awarded in the past for his so-called traffic productivity. However, his dishonesty came at a cost, including the loss of his job and a year of probation. 2. Harvey Briggs. 54-year-old Harvey Briggs was working as a Tennessee state trooper in 2020 when he ripped a COVID-19 mask off a protester's face outside the state capitol during a political protest. Briggs told the victim, Andrew Golden, a musician and activist, to get back, to which Golden responded by saying, quote, "I'm filming and I'm on the effing sidewalk." Angered by the man's choice of words, Briggs allegedly replied, "Go ahead and use that language again, young man." In a video of confrontation, the trooper can be seen approaching Golden and warning him not to impede the officers at the scene. When Golden tried to film Briggs's badge and asked him why he wasn't wearing a mask, the camera suddenly panned down to the ground, where Golden's mask was laying in the grass. Briggs denied ripping the mask off the young man's face and said that he was, in his words, tired of you people making stuff up. The footage went viral, and the 22-year-old veteran was soon fired for unprofessional conduct and charged with assault. He sued the state over his firing, arguing that neither Golden's video or surveillance footage of the incident clearly showed him removing the protester's mask. In September of 2022, Briggs pleaded no contest to the assault charge and was sentenced to 6 months of probation. He mysteriously vanished from his home in Columbia, Tennessee the next day. According to police, he made several concerning statements to his family before he disappeared. A few days later, his vehicle was spotted in Okaloosa Island, Florida, and Briggs was allegedly seen walking along the beach. His lawyer declined to comment on the disappearance or whether Briggs had permission to travel, which is required under the terms of his probation. However, since the police can't find him, it's likely safe to assume that he vanished without warning. There have been no updates since early October, and police have appealed to the public for any possible information regarding his whereabouts. 1. Errol Oskay. In one of the more unusual law enforcement gone wrong cases to hit the headlines in recent years, a New York state trooper found himself on the wrong side of the law for allegedly trying to swindle Walmart for a free children's toy. While off duty one day in September of 2022, 36-year-old Errol Oskay bought a riding toy from a Walmart in Watertown. He came back to the store the next day and returned it. However, while handling the merchandise, asset protection employees noticed that the toy inside the box was visibly worn, indicating that it was much older than the toy Oskay had purchased the previous day. Suspecting that he kept the new toy and returned one that he owned for quite a while, staff members called the police. Oskay was charged with 1 felony count of falsifying business records and misdemeanor petty larceny. He remains suspended from his job amid an internal investigation into the allegations against him. Would you rather be the key witness in a criminal case against a corrupt police officer, or butt dial your boss while talking smack about them to a coworker? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.